My name is Tina Swanek, and welcome to Career Explore Northwest Live. I am the Career Explore Northwest producer for KSPS PBS Public Television here in Spokane, Washington. Career Explore Northwest Live is an interactive Zoom event that connects young people with professionals so they can learn about careers and career paths. And today's event is a joint Career Explore Northwest Live and Business After School event brought to you in partnership by KSPS PBS and Greater Spokane Incorporated. And here to welcome you from GSI is Director of Education and Talent, Rebecca Clemens.
Welcome to Career Explore Northwest Live. I'm Rebecca Clemens, Director of Education and Talent at Greater Spokane Incorporated. GSI is Spokane's Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development organization. We're excited to bring you today's event, a collaboration between Career Explore Northwest Live and the Business After School program. This interactive Zoom session is designed to connect you with professionals across a variety of industries, helping students explore different career paths and gain real-world insight. GSI is proud to partner with KSPS PBS to make this experience possible and look forward to an engaging and informative session with you all.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And during today's event, we'll be exploring paralegal careers with the help of our special guest, David Shotwell. David is the program director of the paralegal program and the chair of the Department of Business and Legal Studies at Spokane Community College. He is a licensed attorney in Washington State with a practice spanning over 20 years. He is a published author of a textbook focusing on probate administration and a frequent lecturer educating attorneys, accountants, and all types of legal professionals. Hello, David. Thank you for being here
Hello.
today to share information about your career and career path.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, we'll hear more from David in just a moment, but now let's meet our high school guests. Okay, we have two high schools joining us today. We have University High School, which is on the left of the screen with Running Start and College Career Specialist Nicole Ribby. And then on the right-hand side, we have Mount Spokane High School with Counselor Josh Cowart. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, before we get started, I want to quickly share the agenda for today's event. First, we will have our special guest, David Shotwell, tell us a little bit about his education and career journeys, and then we'll open the floor for questions from our student guests. Okay, let's get started. Again, welcome, David. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your education and career journeys that have led to your position you're in today?
Yeah, happy to. Again, my name is David Shotwell. I'm the program director here at Spokane Community College in the paralegal program. And the paralegal instructors here at Spokane Community College are all licensed attorneys, because the whole focus of our educational program is to teach legal professionals how to practice law. So all of our instructors, including myself, we have received our bachelor's, we've received our doctorate and have a license to practice law. And all of our instructors have at least 20 years of experience practicing in their various fields. So when you are exploring a career as a legal professional, you're getting instruction from legal professionals who still practice, who are very experienced in their various fields, and also providing a wide breadth of education. So from an educational background, we all have doctorates, but we are educating legal professionals to work in a law office under the supervision of licensed attorneys, which is fundamentally what a paralegal is, and how that position looks is just as varied as your interests can be varied.
Great. Thank you so much, David. We'll go ahead and just jump into the Q&A portion of this session, the question and answer portion of the event, because that's really where the meat of all the information tends to come from with Career Explore Northwest Live. So we'll start first with a question from University High School, and then we'll go to Mount Spokane next, and we'll continue in that order throughout the event. So University High School, what is your first question for David?
What does being a paralegal entail? Are there certain character traits or skills that you might need to have that are best suited for the career path?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Being a paralegal requires a lot of attention to detail fundamentally. You are working with a support team in a law office environment, most typically, and that position can be very, very different depending on the type of firm you're working for and the type of workflow that is being asked of you. So, for example, you could be in a family law office helping people through a dissolution process and working with mothers who are going through a very challenging time in their lives and being an essential person as part of that support staff. Fundamentally, paralegals can do a lot. Fundamentally, you can do almost everything a paralegal can do, or everything a lawyer can do, except you're not arguing in court. You're not, forming the attorney-client relationship. You're not running that business, and of course, you're not, arguing or not discussing legal fees. But beyond that, you're doing so much of the work in the background in the law office, and whether or not you're working directly with the client or whether or you are perhaps in a different area of law where you work with medical records all day and you help injured clients receive compensation, perhaps in a personal injury environment. Perhaps you're the type of person that prefers less human interaction, but more detail-oriented work. So you can do work with forensic accountings and or compliance with building permits or construction. So it's not so much what you don't have to fit yourself into what a paralegal is. You can have your personality type and your interest guide you to what kind of paralegal you would like to be. So if the idea of working with clients through divorces sounds like the worst thing in the world to you, perhaps you're more social justice oriented and you work with people preventing them from being evicted or helping people being accused of crimes, or you're working with landlord-tenant relations. It can be so varied and different that you should feel empowered to find the position that works best for you. It's not you trying to work into one monolithic paralegal job title. That's not a thing. We use the word paralegal to describe working with lawyers in a law office, but because there are so many different areas of law, there are an infinite also amount of support positions that suit your skills and your personality type.
Hey, Mount Spokane, first question.
What kind of things can we do to prepare to do this job in the future?
To work in a law office, the types of skills that are essential, diligence, showing up on time. We're very process-oriented thinkers, as you might imagine, because typically when we are working in a legal environment where we have a lawsuit or an action or a legal thing that we're helping the clients with, and that typically has a very specific process. All of our clients, of course, want their work done in an efficient and timely manner, and they're paying us perhaps by the hour. And because of that, we are always looking. One of the essential traits that spans almost every area of law is just making sure that you have the ability to read and analyze, text well. Today's technology needs require you to, have a basic or to a good understanding of word processing and computer interfaces. At Spokane Community College, our paralegal program specializes in making sure that students not only get the vocabulary necessary to understand what the legal field looks like, but also the technology support, getting practice and training in law practice management software, timekeeping, billing, understanding what that looks like in the law office when you have to juggle or compartmentalize several different cases at various stages through a legal process, whether it's a lawsuit or some other type of paperwork that you're doing. So across all fields, we're looking for people that aren't afraid of meeting deadlines, process-oriented thinkers, and from there, you will gain the knowledge and experience within our program necessary to seamlessly translate into entry-level positions in our area.
University High School.
What does moving up the ladder look like for this job?
Yeah. So professional development can be very different depending on the environment that you put yourself in. So I can give you a few examples. An entry-level position could be in a smaller law firm. You're shadowing other paralegals and supervising attorneys. You're doing paperwork, you're doing forms, you're working with the client to get information. But as you gain expertise, you gain an expertise in that area of law to the degree where you are doing legal research, you are creating legal briefs for the supervising attorney to review, sign, and eventually argue in court. Paralegals become managers of paralegals, managers in the office environment. So one thing that paralegals do when they gain the level of trust and knowledge and expertise, they run their boss's schedule. They're the ones who are managing not only their own workflow, but their supervising attorneys as well, or perhaps several supervising attorneys. Paralegals that further their education can translate into other fields as well. One statistic is that 70% of paralegal graduates work in law firms, which is of course expected, but 30% actually go into other areas which require or at least a familiarity with the legal environment. You know, if you're working for city, county, or other government administration, you're not necessarily arguing in court or working with a lawyer, but having a legal expertise or background can really be useful in that environment. If you decide to work in an insurance company, you can be a manager in that environment, working with legal compliance, and having that legal background could be an essential skill that gets you in the door in not just the legal field, but in other areas where having a legal background can propel you further.
Hey, Mount Spokane.
Are there any risks with AI taking over this career?
Risks with AI. We've had, if you Google how attorneys have abused AI with creating documentation, you're going to learn that we are a very, I mean, the legal system in the United States is very adversarial. So we are used to, and we get comfortable with opposing counsel telling us everything wrong with everything that we do. It's in a productive way. It's non-threatening, but at the same time, we are proofreaders to a fault, and we over-prepare to the degree where AI is nowhere near it where it needs to be to replace a paralegal. Yes, an AI might be able to create a chatbot to schedule an appointment, so maybe you're not answering as many phones, but the legal analysis and the soft skills, the people skills that you need to work with a client that is having a pretty bad day or having a bad year is not going to be replaced by a robot anytime soon. If you were arrested, or if you're going through a divorce, or if you were injured in an accident, would you want to talk to a person, or would you want to talk to an AI chatbot? And I'm fairly certain that 99% of all of my clients would prefer an actual person who can empathize with their situation and deal with them on a human level. So AI may come a long way and may replace us all someday, but I feel that in the legal industry, we are more immune than other areas of business.
University, high school.
Can this job evolve into becoming a lawyer or even a judge in the future?
Yeah. So with a paralegal, if you complete your work here at Spokane Community College, you get an associate's degree. In order to be a lawyer in Washington State, at least, you must go to law school. The traditional path is to go to law school. In order to apply to law school, you have to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited school. So we're working on starting a bachelor's degree right now. That's not going live for some time. So a paralegal in our industry typically will finish their bachelor's degree while working in the industry. And if they choose to go to law school, they just have to complete that bachelor's. And once they've completed that bachelor's, they can apply. They take the LSATs, which is like an SAT for law school, and they can apply to law school and complete their doctorate from there. So the answer is yes, you can go to law school after being a paralegal, but the barrier to getting into law school is kind of the concern there, and you're going to need to get that bachelor's degree.
Mount Spokane.
What kinds of classes should I take in high school in order to prepare for this?
So thank you for the question. In high school, we're not concerned about any particular class to prepare you for the entry level paralegal program here. So at the community college, we have entry level classes that are designed to educate you on what paralegals do and how they work in the industry. It's like the first class that you take in the fall is Intro to Legal Careers that tells you what it's like on a day-to-day workflow to be a paralegal. So when you're in high school, you don't have to take like an AP English class, or you don't have to take anything that is that will become a barrier to you being successful here. Of course, reading, writing, proofreading, anything that gets you familiar with technology is going to serve you very well, especially because technology is always a moving target. Being able to read and analyze any complicated or legal language is going to be something that you develop over time, and we develop that while you're here. So I don't want you to have any anxiety or fear that going from the high school to the paralegal program is going to be a jump that is insurmountable. In fact, so many of our students are choosing paralegal as their first college experience, and they are very successful. Anyone who does puts in the work to turn their assignments in on time and shows up to class, just like in high school, the people who show up in good faith are successful and they thrive here.
University high school.
What kind of degree does a paralegal require to have? If not, like what would a college plan look like on the road path to becoming a paralegal?
Yeah, so in our program at Spokane Community College, the associate's degree is a 6-quarter process. It's 90 credits on the quarter system, and 2/3 of that are legal classes within our program, and the other third are what we call general education credits, which typically, have follow a very standard general education curriculum. English 101, we have humanities electives, we have social science electives, we have math requirements. So you're not just coming in and learning just the law and nothing else, and you're closed to everything. No, you're getting the same kind of general education credits that you would get from a lot of other business transfer degrees, for example. So our program creates a well-rounded human being in the associate's degree environment that allows you to pivot into that bachelor's degree, to get credits if you're a Running Start student, to get the credits necessary to graduate from high school and to make sure that you're set up for success. So being a paralegal, it's not just learning the law, it's also developing math skills and humanities skills and a lot of other skills in general education credits that every degree at the college requires. We're not that different. The real difference that I love to talk about is within the law classes, we are direct to workforce. When you graduate from our program, 90% of our graduates are already working in a law firm by the time they graduate. We have a very high success rate. And so you have the general education, but the law classes are designed to teach you not just the vocabulary, but how to practice law in our service area. It's of course got a lot of general ideas and core principles of the legal framework that you're studying, but we also relate it to what do we do in Washington? What do we do in Spokane County? Let's bring in the county clerk. Here's a place you can volunteer. We do internship hours as a requirement to graduate in our program. So you are required to get experience in the field to get a taste of the thing that you're about to go into. And we have a lot of community partners that allow us and allow our students to go into their environment and to see what it's like. Because fundamentally, you're going to be happier when you know that every day you get to wake up and you get to do this thing and it's not nebulous. You get to see them actually doing the work before you graduate. And you'll be doing it as well.
Yes, sorry. As a follow-up question, how different, so you don't need to go to law school in order to become a paralegal, or is it suggested to more easily go up the ranks?
It's definitely not going to law school to be a paralegal. Going to law school is a path to getting your law license and getting a Juris Doctorate. So that's a very, very different path. So just to compare and contrast the two programs, on the paralegal path, you can go directly with your high school diploma or running start into our program and get an associate's degree. And with law school, you have to finish a bachelor's degree, and then it's at least 3 more years at the law school level in order to get your doctorate in order to become a lawyer. So a paralegal does not go to law school. They don't, there's no state requirement or there's no licensing requirements in that regard. The value of our program is developing the professional development or the professional contacts, the language, and ultimately the skills necessary to get the entry level paralegal position. So the barrier to getting into the industry is years of education less, like 5 years of full-time education less than the lawyers have to go through.
Where would you say this like job is most needed? Like areas that paralegals are like needed in the
Yeah, the cool thing about our program is we're ABA approved. The ABA, sorry, means the American Bar Association. So the cool thing about our program is that it's very portable. What I mean by that is when you graduate with a certain type of degree, there's always a fear that your education doesn't necessarily translate if you decide to move to California or Nebraska or somewhere else. Being an ABA approved program allows you to select the job in the area that you choose, and it's very, very portable. So your question related to community need, and that varies by the law firms and the positions open at that particular time. So I don't get to control what industry does, but typically every town will always have the core positions open. You know, the more areas of law that are fundamental to every town will have more positions. So, you know, criminal law, family law, torts, which is our personal injury type of environment, and those are real estate and real property transactions because everyone's got to buy and sell a home where they are. So those areas of law will always have more positions than your intellectual property and copyright law or your specialized, you know, estate planning, wills, and probate also are very fundamental. So when you ask about job openings, one thing that we do here at the college is every time we learn of a position, we post it and we advertise that on our jobs board so that when you're still within the program or you've recently graduated, you're still getting good information about jobs in our area. We've built such goodwill in our community that they come to us first to make sure that their position is posted through our jobs board to make sure that they get competitive and qualified candidates.
University high school.
As far as like getting the paralegal degree at SCC and then potentially transferring to a four-year college to finish out a bachelor's degree, do those overlap pretty seamlessly where you could finish a bachelor's degree in another 2 years, or would it be longer?
It can be longer because you have to pick a bachelor's degree where your credits transfer. So what I mean by that is your general education credits will seamlessly transfer very, very easily, but 2/3 of the classes from our program are very law specific. So your intro to legal careers, your torts, your court rules classes may not transfer into your new major at your 4-year degree as seamlessly as you might ideally like. If you go to another school that offers a paralegal bachelor's degree, then it will be more seamless than if you're going into getting a degree in political science, English, or some other field of study. Ultimately, it's up to the school that you're going to determine your transfer credits. But I don't want to give you the impression that it's so seamless that you can finish any bachelor's degree within 2 years, because a lot of our law classes, they might give you some elective credit, but their particular programs at the bachelor's level may require a certain level of classes necessary to fill that particular major. So if you're finishing your bachelor's in paralegal studies, it may be a seamless transfer to an online school that offers that. I'm trying to start a bachelor's program here at Spokane Community College so that you can do that in 4 years or less without that transfer problem. But yeah, it will depend on the school that you go to and the major that you select, because that school will also have their own requirements, and our law classes may not seamlessly fit into those classes. So I cannot say that it's just a 2-year process to finish your bachelor's if you get a paralegal AA. You're going to have to work with that school to figure out where you stand.
Are there times of the year where this job is busier than others?
That's a great question, because you are a paralegal can be an hourly position, it can be a salaried position, and depending on the type of paralegal you are, your workflow can get really, really busy, depending on what's going on at the law office at the time. So typically we're not busier, around holidays, because typically the courts and lawyers schedules, holidays and are actually very available. But when we are about to go to trial, your life gets very, very busy if you're a paralegal assisting a lawyer with a trial preparation process. And if you are the person in the law office that is helping manage exhibits and testimony preparation and those types of things, your busy time is when you're about to go to trial. And that could be in March or November. But other areas of law, just depending on what they're asking you to do, could be a very steady process. So the answer is always, it depends on the position that you're looking for. If you're, just to give you a contrary example, you could be working in a personal injury law firm preparing medical records and advocating and preparing settlement demand letters. Well, that's a very constant area of work that doesn't get busy, too busy too often. It's very, very steady work. So the answer is, it really depends on the type of position that you see yourself in. If you're working in a litigation environment where you're about to go to trial, yeah, you're going to get busy around trial time. But if you're working more in a support role where you're preparing documentation, as long as you're keeping up on your work, that can be very steady. So you can, if you see yourself in a role where you don't want to work 80 hours ever in any particular week, you put yourself in a paralegal position that suits that need.
Hey, University, I think you had a follow-up question to a previous question.
Yes, I did. What major should be pursued to be a paralegal? If not, then is a paralegal already a major?
Yeah, we don't necessarily use the word major in the community college, because the major refers to more of a bachelor's program. We are considered workforce. We go directly from our degree into the workforce. So if you were trying to pick a major that translated into the paralegal field, just using a standard bachelor's degree, then obviously I would pick a major that emphasizes the skills that they look for, for the paralegal. So the reading, the writing, communication, soft skills, and process analysis and compliance. But in the bachelor's program, those majors don't teach classes specifically about law. So you're getting a lot of the good necessary skills, but in our program, you're getting those skills and you're learning the law within those industries, which is why the paralegal program is so nice, because you're getting some of those skills and you're learning how to practice law in that environment. So it's not a major. Typically, when you graduate from our program, you're getting an associate of applied science in paralegal studies. It's not a major, if that makes sense. Did I confuse you? I hope not.
Hey, Mount Spokane, next question.
What are the hardest parts of being a paralegal?
The hardest part, gosh, there can be a lot of hard parts. Onboarding and learning a new skill is difficult no matter what you do. Your first day of the job, you're excited, but you recognize you have no idea what you're doing. And we're in an area of law where we're helping someone with their court case, where when we lose, someone can get a very negative outcome. Someone can go to jail, someone can lose custody of their kids, someone could, lose their lawsuit and have a money judgment against them. So we are in a very high it's not high pressure for us necessarily. It's high pressure for the client, and we are a calming force. I always tell my students, your first day of the job is going to be very supportive. Everyone knows how ignorant you are, and we're going to help you every step of the way. The day of your life in the law office that you fear the most is when you prepare documentation for your boss and he doesn't check your work anymore and he just signs it because he trusts you. There's your scariest day of your life, where you develop an expertise to where they don't even check your work anymore. And now the buck stops with you on whether the client gets a positive or a negative outcome. So the cool thing about the practice of law is you're working with a team. We're 100% supportive. We're bringing you in to help us because we're really good at marketing. We're really good at bringing clients in, and we want you to be awesome for us. And so we're going to give you professional development opportunities, continuing education opportunities, and we're going to be checking your work and supporting you in a way that when a mistake is made, we're going to call it out, because of course, if we don't call out our own mistakes, opposing counsels do it for us, right? But you are never on an island all by yourself. It's never that kind of environment. We're always working with others. We're always working on a team, and we're always checking each other's work. And you're going to get to a point in your professional development where you're checking other people's work and you're providing that mentorship and guidance for others.
Okay, University High School. I think we have time for about 2 more questions. And so we'll start with University, and then the last question will be from Mount Spokane.
Alrighty. How do you cooperate with the police and courts to get the information that you guys use in court, as well as what type of information? Is it like more paper records? Is it more like online digital copies, public access information? You guys get private access? Like how does that look?
Yeah, that can be very, very different depending on the environment that you're in. Obviously, if we're working in a criminal law office, we don't work with the police unless they have a warrant, right? But if we are coordinating with a police officer, perhaps on a personal injury case, to amend or correct a report, or working on a police officer's testimony, a paralegal might be very instrumental in doing a lot of the background interviews and investigations and prep work necessary to make sure that the supervising attorney understands the facts. And then, of course, all of the work that you're doing is going through an evidence filter that questions whether or not the information that we gather is something that we want to use in court, or that we even can use in court. Because you're talking with people in real time about what they observed in the lawsuit. And a lot of he said and she said and hearsay goes through your brain, and you have to, in real time, figure out how that information can get processed in a way that can be admissible in a court of law. And that's why your education is so important, because you're going to end up doing that without even thinking after you get experience in our field. So the answer is fundamentally, it depends. We teach a class called Interview and Investigation Techniques specifically because it is different depending on the area of law that you're in.
Hey, Mount Spokane, last question.
I was wondering, for paralegals, what type of medical care would that look like, or retirement benefits and pay, logistically?
Yeah, I mean, typically the types of benefits that we see in the industry are full medical, dental benefits with paid time off. The hourly starting wage in Spokane County, I'd like to see it higher, but we're typically starting, north of $30 an hour to start for entry-level positions, but they can go much higher. There are paralegals that have bachelor's degrees that are experts in their field, making more than $100,000 a year easily. So the upward trajectory of a paralegal is not just the entry-level position, and that's where you stay. When you get to a level where you develop an operational expertise, you're managing other paralegals, or you're pivoting to a managerial role in a non-law office field, such as like an insurance company or city or county government, you can make 6 figures. Especially, inflation makes that easy, I suppose, but you have an upward trajectory. And typically those are positions like at the Attorney General's office that pay and provide benefits for their employees. We want them to stay, because finding good paralegals is incredibly difficult. And when we find a good one, we latch onto them as much as we can.
Hey, thank you so much. I think we just have a few minutes left here, and so I'd like to open the floor to David. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our guests about paralegal careers? Maybe something that hasn't been touched on during the Q&A that you think is important for the students to know if they're considering entering this field?
Yeah, when doing anything for the first time, it feels scary. And the one thing that I love to emphasize is the amount of support that Spokane Community College provides when entering our program. You're not just taking classes and you're not showing up to class and you're expected to figure everything out. We have entire departments that are helping you with the advising process, getting you to graduate on your terms, helping you with the technology. We have an attorney that is in our tutoring center that can tutor our students if you're having any challenges with any of our content. And we are the only paralegal program in Eastern Washington, and we pride ourselves on providing excellent service. And the way that we demonstrate that is our stats. We have a 90% employment rate upon graduation. So most students are either already employed or fully employed in the industry within 6 months of graduation, or going to get their law degree because they discovered that they love it so much they're going to go get their doctorate. So yeah, that's an awesome conversation to have with every student. And if you're successful here, you are going to have a successful career, and hopefully you get the paralegal position that suits you and your personality type and allows you to make the big bucks.
Okay, David, thank you so much. First of all, I just would like to thank our special guest. I'll bring him up on the screen for everybody to see here, David Shotwell from Spokane Community College, for taking all this time to visit with us today and to share your information and insights related to paralegal careers. We covered a lot of ground today. And for the students' benefit, I wanted to let you know that if you're interested in talking with David more, he has agreed to allow us to release his contact information to your instructors if you'd like to follow up on this conversation. And I'd also like to bring up on the screen our two schools that joined us today. Really fantastic questions. Thank you so much for taking time to prepare those. We covered a lot of ground, and your questions were very well thought out. And so I really appreciate all of that effort and energy you put into participating today. Okay, so I think we're getting towards the end of the event here. And I would like to just invite back to the floor Rebecca Clemens from GSI, who wants to share some closing remarks with you.
Thank you for joining us for Career Explore Northwest Live. On behalf of Greater Spokane Incorporated, we hope today's session helped you explore new career paths, connect with professionals, and gain valuable insight into your future. We're proud to partner with KSPS PBS to bring these experiences to life and support your journey toward success. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and we look forward to seeing where your path leads next. If you have ideas for a speaker or career you would like highlighted, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and the whole GSI team for being fantastic partners with this program. And that concludes our Career Explore Northwest Live event.